When mentioning the German Air Force during World War II, do you first think of the roaring Stukas or the various aircraft in the Battle of Britain? Interestingly, besides aircraft and other aerial forces, the German Air Force during World War II also had its own ground forces. They were the Luftwaffe Field Divisions. This unit was composed of underutilized personnel within the Air Force, such as ground crew, civilian employees, and logistics staff. The reason for its formation was the severe reduction in German troops due to the brutal battles on the Eastern Front. Logically, these personnel should have been integrated as reinforcements into regular army units. The veteran-led integration of new soldiers would have helped them adapt to the change in their branch of service. However, whether Goering was acting out of personal ambition to expand his power or due to a misjudgment by the German High Command, 21 Luftwaffe Field Divisions were forcibly established. This number may seem exaggerated, but compared to regular army divisions, each Luftwaffe Field Division had only about 7,000 men. 7,000 times 21 suggests Goering indeed had quite a few idle hands under him before. Since they were all from an Air Force background, their knowledge of infantry tactics and engineering operations was not just unfamiliar, but practically non-existent, making them essentially robust, untrained men. To make matters worse, their equipment priority was also very low. Most of the people in the squads were armed with Kar 98 rifles. Some squad leaders didn't even receive a submachine gun, but like the army, each squad was assigned a light machine gun. Of course, newer equipment like the MG42 was out of the question. Some squads used the old-school MG13. Many people might not be familiar with it, but it was the machine gun equipped on the Panzer Y. Its 25-round magazine provided poor sustained fire capability. Even more oddly, the MG13 was often used as an anti-aircraft weapon at airfields. In contrast, some luckier squads received the checkmate ZB-26. Though it also used magazine-fed ammunition, which didn't offer great endurance, it at least received consistent praise from users worldwide. Regarding heavy weapons, a standard army division had a complete artillery regiment, while a Luftwaffe Field Division only had an artillery battalion with 3 batteries, mostly equipped with 105mm light howitzers. Their anti-tank weapons were also hand-me-downs from frontline units, including 37mm door knockers and some captured foreign artillery. As for vehicles, they were allocated very few, so most of their movement depended on horses and marching on foot. This was truly reminiscent of the Holy Roman Empire. Considering that Luftwaffe Field Divisions were mostly deployed to reinforce defensive lines rather than execute offensive missions, having such weaponry was actually quite adequate. In terms of clothing, the soldiers of the Luftwaffe Field Divisions looked quite intimidating. Like the paratroopers, they wore the distinctive blue uniforms of the Air Force. To camouflage themselves at the front, many soldiers would even wear a green camouflage jacket over their uniforms. At first glance, they looked very similar to the German paratroopers. If they encountered enemy units that had previously clashed with the Green Devils, the opposing soldiers would likely be quite distressed. However, there were still some noticeable differences in their appearance. Although both were part of the Air Force, the soldiers of the field divisions wore standard German helmets, not paratrooper helmets. Their collar tabs were also green, representing privates and light infantry. The genuine paratroopers, on the other hand, wore yellow collar tabs, but if you actually ran into them on the battlefield, most people probably wouldn't react in time and would be startled by the elite-looking uniforms of the Luftwaffe Field Divisions. In reality, many military enthusiasts are quite interested in the attire of the German Air Force. As I mentioned earlier, Air Force field divisions are often used to fill gaps on the front line, but due to insufficient equipment and training, their defensive areas are often heavily attacked by the enemy. Soldiers lacking anti-tank measures are quickly dispersed by tanks. However, I do have some good ideas here, which is to see if their performance as city defenders might be better. After all, city terrain naturally counteracts mechanized units, and the city map I chose this time even comes with a cold fort. Let's proceed to the main content and see how capable these Air Force Marines are.
Move it!
Let's go! Move fast!
Good night.
target!
Brauchen einen Sanitäter!
Rechte Flanke absichern!
Bereit! Achtung, Feindpanzer!
Watch left side! Understood, sir!
Feuer bereit!
Cannon! Enemy cannon!
Was sollen wir mit dem Teilen?
Ragtag!
Send him running! That'll teach him. Good work, boys.
Alright, due to the equipment disparity, the featured unit, the Air Force Field Division, was unable to hold their ground. However, taking advantage of the urban offensive, they inflicted significant losses on the attackers. In fact, historically, the Air Force Field Division suffered heavy casualties. Lacking experience and equipment, they often faced the elite forces of the Allies. However, these Air Force ground troops did not collapse at the first touch like recruits. The heavy casualties have proven their reliability. Through the trials of war, some surviving Air Force soldiers gained experience and were later reorganized into formal Army units to continue fighting. Yet I still feel regret about this. Whether they were Air Force ground staff or clerical personnel, in the 1930s and 40s they were considered educated and skilled individuals. But in war, they were ruthlessly used as cannon fodder, which is truly too cruel and unjust. Alright, this episode marks UP's first attempt to introduce a special unit and their story. If you like this type of content, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.